But before I could open it, the figure shifted closer. The tapping sound morphed into a whisper. Or maybe it was my imagination playing tricks on me. "Help me," it seemed to say, the words heavy with a sense of urgency. I ripped my gaze away and scrambled to turn on the engine, but the car sputtered to life at an agonizingly slow pace. I felt the weight of that eerie presence like a tangible force pressing down on my shoulders. "Get out," I told myself, but fear roots you to the spot. Finally, the engine roared. I flung the car into reverse and backed out of the space wildly. I didn't even look behind me as I sped away, the streetlights zipping past in a blur. I needed to find answers. The shadows of the duplex on Oak Street and the Victorian on Maple clung to my thoughts like glue. I secretly vowed to uncover whatever lay behind those strange occurrences. But first, I needed to breathe, to clear my head. I drove around aimlessly, each honk of a horn feeling like a warning. Finally, I decided to stop at a coffee shop, hoping the chatter and light would distract me. I sat in a corner booth, trying to make sense of everything. My phone buzzed relentlessly with notifications, but I ignored them. Then I heard the tapping again, this time on the window. I glanced up, my heart thumping. It was an older woman staring at me, her face pale and gaunt. "You shouldn't be out here alone." Her voice was shaky but determined. "What?" I asked, my stomach twisting. "Those places, stay away from them. They attract things." She shivered, glancing around as if expecting to see someone lurking in the shadows. "Why?" I pressed, curious despite the fear. "Because once they find you," she paused, her eyes wide and glassy, "they don't let you go. You hear them, see them, but you won't be able to escape." I could feel dread clawing at me. "What do you mean?" Her expression grew serious. "Trust the stories. You think it's just a joke, but it's real. And those drivers before you, they vanished without a trace." She looked me in the eye, urgency flooding her voice. "You must return what you've taken." "Taken?" Confusion swirled in my mind. Had I taken something? Suddenly, her face illuminated by fear, she pointed outside. I spun around, just in time to see the shadow from my car steal across the pavement, stretching like a dark omen toward me. "That's when everything clicked," I whispered, dread pooling in the pit of my stomach. What had I taken, and what would happen next? The coffee shop felt like a haven, but it was also a trap. I pushed away my half-finished drink, my thoughts racing. I couldn't shake the woman's warning or the sinister shadow stalking me. Had I really taken something? And what would returning it even mean? I forced myself to focus. The stories about the duplex and the Victorian haunted my thoughts. I needed answers. I left the cafe and headed back to my car, my heart heavy. The streetlights flickered, casting uneasy shadows along the pavement. As I approached, I froze again. The figure was back, an indistinct shape seated in the back. This time, a chill swept through me. I had the sudden urge to flee, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to confront this thing. I opened the door with hesitance, dreading what I might find. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper.
The figure did not respond. "Please, what do you want?" I tried again, desperation creeping in. The air around me felt thicker, colder. Just then, the figure tilted its head, or at least it appeared to. A low whisper cut through the silence. "Find what was lost. Return it." My breath caught in my throat. What did that even mean? My mind raced. Was it about the deliveries I made? I couldn't remember anything out of the ordinary. With every second that passed, the figure remained still, vibrating with the energy of secrets left unspoken. I looked away, forcing myself to think. Maybe the vanishing stories were tied to something I delivered. The items I collected could be connected. I grabbed my phone. The notifications I had ignored earlier flooded my screen. I scrolled through the messages as I leaned back against the car. My palms were sweaty and my heart raced. There was a message from an unknown number. It read, "You need to return the parcel. Time is running out." My stomach dropped. I would never forget the small box I delivered a few days ago to an unnamed address. It felt wrong at the time, but the job didn't allow me to question. It only required me to deliver. Panic surged through me. Was that what I had taken? I had to go back, but where? As I wrestled with my thoughts, the figure shifted again, its form flickering in the dim light. "Take me with you," it whispered, a faint echo of desperation lacing its voice. "No, I can't!" I shrieked, stepping back. Suddenly, the world around me blurred. The streetlights dimmed, and my senses spiraled into darkness. Then, everything went quiet. I struggled to breathe, realizing I wasn't sure how much time I had left. I had to find that address, no matter the cost. Whatever was waiting for me there could be my only chance for escape. I reached deep into my pocket for the slip of paper. The address was hidden in my mind. The weight of my choices pressed on me, and I knew the shadow was right behind me, waiting. With determination, I took a step toward what I feared most. But the streets twisted in ways I didn't recognize, and as I turned the corner, I faced a sight that made my blood run cold. I wasn't alone. Someone was standing there in the shadows, their intent unreadable. "Where do you think you're going?" they asked, in a voice that sent icy chills through me. I froze, realizing I was trapped.
Sun guia, I was a instrumento dessa verdade.
A dull ache resonated in my head as I took a deep breath, forcing my panic back down. The air was thick and almost electric. I scanned the area, but the street was empty, the shadows looming eerily around me. "Hello?" I called out, my voice wavering. No answer came, just silence. I got up, stumbling slightly as I tried to orient myself. The computer store, the coffee shop, they were all so familiar, and yet they felt foreign now. The night was darker than it had been before, a deep velvet black swallowing the streetlight's glow. As I cautiously moved forward, something glinted off the ground. I bent down, my fingers brushing against an object that looked like a small metal box. It was sinister in its simplicity, and a shiver ran through me. What is this? I almost dropped it when a loud crash echoed nearby. I whirled around, anxiety gripping me like a vice. "Is someone there?" I shouted, but only the distant sound of a car honking in the far-off street answered me. My hands trembled as I picked up the box. It felt wrong in my grip, a weight that made my pulse quicken even more. I hesitated, debating whether to open it. What if it was connected to whatever I had delivered? I flipped the box over, searching for markings or clues. Just then, I heard it again, the footsteps, closer this time, almost echoing in time with my heartbeat. "No, not now," I whispered, panic surging. Glimpsing movement in the corner of my eye, I glanced over my shoulder. A figure stepped into the light, their face obscured by a hood. My breath caught in my throat. "Who are you?" The figure raised a hand, and I took a step back, still holding the box. "You are looking for answers, but be careful what you wish for," they said, their voice smooth yet chilling. "Stop! What do you know?" I shouted, feeling a surge of frustration mixed with fear. I didn't want riddles, I wanted clarity. "Everything," the figure replied, taking a step forward. "You've crossed paths with forces that will not let you go easily." Then, as if the air itself had twisted, the shadows around us deepened. I felt it, a pulse in the air, drawing nearer, as if the darkness was alive and hungry. Suddenly, the box in my hands vibrated, a low humming resonating from within. I held it tighter, uncertain if it was a warning or an invitation. The figure looked intrigued, their gaze fixated on the box. "Open it," they urged, their voice barely above a whisper. That's when I knew I had to make a choice. Would I confront whatever was lurking in the shadows, or would I turn and run into the night? In that moment, everything felt like it balanced on a knife's edge. And just like that, the decision pressed heavy on my chest, ready to change everything. I couldn't shake the figure's eyes from my mind, even as the low vibration from the box pulsed in my hands. I glanced at them, then at the box, weighing my options. Maybe opening it would give me the answers I needed, or maybe it would unleash something worse.
Why should it unleash something worse? They shouted back, their voice barely audible against the howling wind. I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting to see the figure from my visions. Instead, all I saw was a suffocating darkness. I focused on the figure ahead, their cloak trailing behind them like a ghost's wisp. They dodged between the shadows, creating paths I would have never noticed. Suddenly, I heard a low growl, rattling the air around us. Panic gripped my chest. What was that? "Keep moving." The figure pressed on, but I could feel the weight of that growl wrapping around me like a shroud. Shadows stretched and twisted towards us, tendrils reaching out with a life of their own. Without warning, my foot caught on something. A root? A stone? I fell to the ground, the box slipping from my grasp. My heart sank as I watched it tumble, the orb inside shimmering briefly before landing in the dirt. No! I scrambled to my feet and lunged for the box. But as I bent to pick it up, a shadow darted past me, too quick to recognize its form. I froze, a chill spreading through my body. The figure turned, eyes wide. "Get the box!"
I seized it, the orb still glowing softly. Just when my fingers wrapped around the edges, a sharp pain bit into my side. I gasped, doubling over, as something cold brushed against my skin. A shadow? And I heard a whisper in my ear, chilling me to the bone. Others seek what you hold. Go, now! The figure grabbed my arm and yanked me back to my feet. I could still feel the shadow's icy breath lingering on my neck. What did it want? The box rattled as the figure held it. We have to get somewhere safe. They glanced back at the dark mass pursuing us. I nodded, heart racing, as we sprinted down the street, shadows twisting and curling behind us like angry serpents. "Who are you?" I finally blurted out, desperate for answers. "Someone who knows," they replied breathlessly. "But right now we need to focus on staying alive." As we turned a corner, we stumbled upon an alley. It was narrower, the shadows less menacing in here, but it felt wrong. The air grew dense, heavier with an energy I couldn't pinpoint. "This way," my companion urged, leading me towards an old door at the alley's end, weathered and cracked. I had no idea where it led, but it felt like my only option. The figure pounded against the door, and I watched anxiously as shadows danced closer behind us. They glanced back at me, their urgency palpable. "We need to get inside now." That's when I heard it, a loud crack, like thunder splitting the sky. The ground trembled beneath us again, and the door suddenly swung open. "Come on!" I dived through the threshold, just as the shadows lunged forward, swallowing the daylight behind me. The door slammed shut, sealing us in a dark space that smelled of damp earth and decay. But as my eyes adjusted, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A series of ancient symbols carved into the walls, glowing faintly in the dim light. I stumbled back.
"What is this place?" The figure turned to me, their expression resolute. "A sanctuary for now. We may have a moment, but they will come." I took a step closer to the symbols, confusion and fear wrestling inside me. What did they mean? And why did I feel like I recognized them? "Listen," my companion said, grabbing my shoulders. "You're part of something much bigger. If we don't find a way out, it's not just our lives at stake." Suddenly, the ground shook again, and a deep, primal roar echoed from the shadows outside, making the entire sanctuary tremble. I shivered. Whatever was out there, it was getting impatient, and we had no time left. I backed away from the symbols, heart pounding. The figure pressed a finger to their lips, urging silence. In the dim light, I noticed their eyes searching the corners of the room, wary and alert. I felt the weight of the moment. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. "What do we do now?" I whispered, still feeling the lingering chill of the shadow that had brushed against me. "We need to activate the runes." "Activate them? How?" I asked, panic creeping into my voice. "We have to focus. Each symbol corresponds to a different energy. You must connect with them." The figure gestured urgently at the glowing designs, their intensity pulsing like a heartbeat. "Just touch one." I hesitated. What if touching them did something terrible? But there was no time to waste. I approached the nearest symbol, feeling the energy tugging at me, inviting me closer. I extended my fingers and made contact. A shock ran through me. It was a jolt of warmth that spread through my hand and into my core. The symbols flickered, brighter now, as if feeding on my fear. Then, suddenly, the ground trembled again. But this time, the vibrations felt different, more intense. "What's happening?" I cried, pulling my hand away, unsure whether to retreat or press on. "Keep going, you're close," the figure urged, glancing back toward the door, which rattled ominously as something pushed against it from outside. I looked at another symbol, an intricate swirl that felt oddly familiar. Taking a deep breath, I reached out again. As my fingers made contact, a vision flooded my mind. A scene unfolded, a sprawling forest filled with shadowy figures dancing in a ritual. "Stop! You need to focus!" the figure shouted, snapping me back. "Did you see that?" I gasped. They wanted something." "No time. Connect with that swirl." They pointed urgently, their brow furrowed. I nodded, trying to shake off the remnants of the vision. I pressed my hand to the swirl once more. This time, a surge of energy coursed through me, strong and bright. The room filled with a light that pushed back against the shadows converging outside. The figure stepped closer, eyes wide. "You're doing it!" As the last of my fear melted away, I felt a sense of purpose.
The shadows outside roared again, but it was muffled this time, as if the light was creating a barrier. I glanced over at the door. It was trembling violently now, but there was a new wave of energy beginning to rise. Suddenly, a shriek rang out, sharp and piercing. I felt myself jerk. Something was wrong. Then the light flickered, the symbols dimming in a shocking ebb. The sanctuary began to shake, more violently this time. "What's happening?" I yelled. "They're breaking in. We need to reinforce the barrier." That's when I saw it. A shadowy figure morphed and twisted right by the door, a ghastly apparition that seemed part nightmare, part memory. I felt its malice wrapping around me like the chill from before. "Cannot hold it!" my companion shouted, and panic flooded back into the room. In that instant, I made a choice. I'd seen those visions. I couldn't let whatever that thing was come through. I had to fight back. What do I do? Channel it. Whatever you felt when you touched the rune, summon it. I squeezed my eyes shut, focusing on the sensations from the connection. I could almost feel the magic humming beneath my skin, rising up like a storm. As the door splintered and the shadows began to pour in, I took a deep breath. I was ready to unleash everything. I opened my eyes, determination igniting the fear that had been suffocating me. The weight of what was at stake settled heavily on my shoulders. I reached out again, this time to the nearest symbol, channeling every ounce of energy, every fragment of my will. Blue light erupted from my fingers, wrapping around me like a protective cocoon. I felt power coursing through me as I envisioned that swirling forest. The shadows no longer terrifying, but rather a part of something ancient and greater. This was a connection I didn't want to break. "Keep going," the figure urged, their voice urgent and insistent. "Focus on the collective, the unity of energy. Imagine it binding us together against the shadows." I could feel the shadows crashing against the door now, as if the darkness itself clawed at the threshold, desperate to breach our sanctuary. Each thud reverberated through the ground, sending tremors through the walls, nudging me closer to the edge of panic. But I stood firm, my resolve hardening. As the shadows squeezed through the cracks, I closed my eyes again, summoning visions of light, hope, and protection. I pictured my friends and family, their laughter brightening my world, eclipsing the darkness that encroached on me now. I thought of the woman from the coffee shop and her warning, the understanding that something precious was at stake, something that transcended my own fears. Suddenly, a blinding flash surged forth from the symbols, illuminating the sanctuary, and in that moment I felt invigorated, the energy pulsing through me like a heartbeat, entwining with the shadows that assailed the door. Yes, you can fend them off.
"My companion!" shouted, their voice fueling my determination. The door bucked violently, and I felt the shadows trying to envelop the light I was channeling. The intensity of my connection created a barrier that began to expand outward, creating a radiant pulse that pushed back against the dark. The shriek echoed again, this time mingling with frustrations of the shadows as the weight of their presence began to lift. I opened my eyes to see the chaotic darkness struggling against the light, but a flicker of doubt crept in. Was it enough? "Do not falter," the figure commanded. "This is just the beginning. You're connected to something far beyond this moment. Embrace it, embody it." With renewed purpose, I directed my thoughts at the pulsating shadows, envisioning them as a living entity struggling to exist. "You've let fear bind you," I shouted, projecting my energy toward them. "You don't belong here any longer." The response was instant, a quivering in the shadows as though they were recoiling from the light. I felt a shift in the air, the temperature dropping suddenly, as if the very essence of the darkness was disrupted. But just as victory seemed within reach, a deeper gravitas pulled at me. Was I merely pushing them away? Or was I unleashing something far more terrible? I had to know. "Focus," urged my companion once more. "You must project intent. Speak to them. Command them." "Leave," I cried out, tapping not just into the light that had sparked within me, but forming words with its energy. "You are not welcome here. Return to the shadows where you came from." As if the universe paused to listen, the shadows began to writhe, responding to the intensity of my voice, my command, fueled by an understanding that this wasn't just about me, but a greater thread that bound all of us in this chaotic tapestry. In that moment, a fierce energy burst forth. Waves of light radiated, and I was filled with a sense of clarity. This battle wasn't solely mine. "Together!" I shouted, invoking the memory of everyone I cared for, pushing forth a collective force. The sanctuary pulsed around me, a heartbeat of resistance driving back the shadows more fiercely than before. Yet, as the shadows faltered under the pressure, another realization dawned. What if I was only holding them back? What if I needed to confront the source instead of perpetually fleeing from it? "Focus," urged my companion once more. "You must project intent. Speak to them. Command them." "Leave," I cried out, tapping not just into the light that had sparked within me, but forming words with its energy. "You are not welcome here. Return to the shadows where you came from." As if the universe paused to listen, the shadows began to writhe, responding to the intensity of my voice, my command, fueled by an understanding that this wasn't just about me, but a greater thread that bound all of us in this chaotic tapestry. In that moment, a fierce energy burst forth. Waves of light radiated, and I was filled with a sense of clarity. This battle wasn't solely mine.
"Together!" I shouted, invoking the memory of everyone I cared for, pushing forth a collective force. The sanctuary pulsed around me, a heartbeat of resistance driving back the shadows more fiercely than before. Yet, as the shadows faltered under the pressure, another realization dawned. What if I was only holding them back? What if I needed to confront the source instead of perpetually fleeing from it? "Channel your light," the figure shouted. "Embrace who you are. This is your power." I took a deep breath, centering the energy within me and directing it into the pulsating lights of the symbols. With a surge of clarity, I opened myself completely to the connection. Light spilled from me, and the ground trembled. The shadows howled as they began to retract, but in the distance I sensed a deeper darkness, more potent than the ones I faced. It lurked just out of sight, waiting.